So yeah, Age of Pioneering. So that's the first, what well, sort of accepted as the first stage of this theory, where you would tend to find kind of like a small marginalized group or kind of kingdom, whether it's obviously the early Roman Empire is a good example. They were obviously weren't an empire at that point, but the early Romans were
Kingdom first.
lower than kind of like the Etruscans, who were the more dominant regional power at the time. So that's a good example.
You've got Romulus and
But
Remus,
usually
causing,
this sort of
causing
stage is
havoc.
characterized by there being lots of unity between that smaller group, having the shared purpose of either survival or trying to expand a bit more. And obviously they usually would exist within some pretty harsh conditions as well. So
There's that
so
great.
that breeds a lot of resilience.
There's that great film. We can put maybe the poster up. Gosh, it's got several names, but it's an Italian film, and it's basically Romulus and Remus, and it's totally non-verbal. It's like, or rather, it's done in a reconstructed version of a very very early kind of form of the Italian language, but not one that's recognisable in any way. And that's really really cool because it's just totally bloody, and it's kind of like the Revenant vibes, but Romulus and Remus. Telling that amazing story. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention it because it's a brilliant film, and I think it's on Prime or one of those. But anyway, crack on.
Yeah. No, that's a good one actually. I haven't seen.
No, it's
that.
really cool. It's really
Yeah,
it's a bit like
that does
it's a
sound
little
really
bit
cool.
like it does a little bit the thing that Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ does, where he reconstructs, uses ancient languages and tries to get that kind of that sense of the sort of Babel, that kind of chaos of different tongues and sounds and the confusion that you feel watching it is kind of reflected in the chaos of what's actually going on.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But anyway, you're telling us about the early
just
Roman
sort of
Empire, Etruscans, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So obviously, yeah. So like I was mentioning, like Age of Pioneering, it's very much characterized by kind of a smaller, maybe less powerful entity rising up through either opportunity or necessity. So either there's like a big power vacuum left by a crumbling empire, or there's a rare opportunity to sort of to have a tactical victory against a bigger power, and then a smaller entity can rise up. In the case of the Romans, obviously they did, and many others as well. But that's the first stage of this theory, and then we move on to the Age of Conquest. So, as it's in the name, this is very much characterized by kind of military expansion, sort of development of military tactics, having strong leadership and a very effective kind of political institution.
Yeah,
So obviously this is kind of
Spain here with kind of Cortez and
yes, yeah.
Columbus
That's a really good example.
that
Yeah, because I also do wonder. Like, I think there's obviously so many different countries that became empires, and so many empires that maybe we don't consider to be in the same kind of conversation as like the truly great empires. But there's like I guess there's so many other examples. I mean, you could even look at like France under Napoleon
big
as
time.
a good example.
Well, and also that's an
There's
interesting
lots of
one
different
because I was
ones.
actually going to jump in a minute ago on the Romans and say there's that interesting thing, and France is similar where you go from kingdom to republic to empire, where you have obviously Rome, you've got Tarquinius, I believe that's his name, and then you've got the rape of Lucretia, which is the infamous, he rapes the wife of one of his generals, I think, and that is seen to be the moment at which the general public rise up and say, enough is enough. The of this decadence and this whole thing, and we're going to be a republic, yada yada yada. So you have the republic, and then you've got that uneasy thing with Coriolanus is a character who Shakespeare turned into a play who exemplifies that kind of slightly fascistic, militaristic reaction against the sort of democratic republic, and people quite warm to him, Coriolanus, in his various travails. And then of course you've got that slide from republic into empire, and you get the same thing in France, where you have obviously the very very decadent monarchy. Louis XVI loses his head. You know, oh, we're a republic. Yeah, everything's democratic and wonderful. Oh, hang on, we can't. You know, things start. The wheels start to turn a bit too quickly. You end up with the terror, and then the way out of that is the rise of Napoleon saying, "Hang on a minute, I can restore order. I can be the guy." So an interesting kind of parallel between the two civilizations there.
Yeah, because I think also with the Romans, like it's and that obviously we can compare kind of Napoleon to the Roman Empire or the Republic.
I suppose
moving
he's the
into
sort of
Empire
Augustus Caesar of France in a sense.
Exactly, because I mean, even Rome, like at the early days, obviously they were a monarchy, disbanded the monarchy, overthrew the royal kind of line of succession, went more of a became a republic, and then you have that interesting kind of shift from, Romans were really kind of intensely against, having a king in charge. And there was a lot of emphasis put on democratic process and kind of that democracy. And you look at, obviously Augustus Caesar comes along, basically wins the love of all the people and essentially convinces them pretty much to let him be that king entity.
Yeah.
Which then obviously moves them into the stage of empire then. So I think it is interesting to have a look at like the shifting kind of perceptions of, the different stages throughout those life cycles of the empire. Because, if you had told someone in the, a Roman citizen from the early republic what they would become in maybe a couple hundred years time, what would they say? What would they think? That's
right.
quite an interesting premise, I think.
No, exactly.